Hey guys, this is Chase with Ethical Trading. Really quickly this afternoon I was going to go through a few charts and take requests as well if anyone wants those. Real quick, let me drop this link in the Discord. Publish the video after, just so that other people have it as well. But let's see. Windows around really quick. Hopefully y'all can see that. Okay. Alright, I'm going to start by glancing at SPY really quick. I know that we've had some really bullish movement the last 2 days. Actually, we've kind of had a wide range of movement both directions. I know we traded some puts as well and made some really solid gains even this morning. So, what do we have here? Alright, so SPY, jump over to the daily. You can see we caught this bounce here in this demand zone. Things are looking pretty nice there. We broke above the 550 level and had strong bullish momentum with volume. So that's good. That 550 level is what many of us have been looking for, to see if we could push over and hold over that, which was great today. A lot of the momentum that we've seen the last 2 days, if you look at the sector flows, has been heavily driven by tech. So NVDA especially, which if I jump over here to QQQ, you're going to see something very similar to SPY. Interesting thing on QQQ is we pushed above this downtrend line yesterday. Carried up a bit further, have more bullish momentum going on there. Not ignoring though this larger head and shoulder setup that we still have going on here on the chart. Many of you that have been trading with me for a while know that I trade both directions, as should everyone. So you can be bullish on a stock, you can trade puts or hedge accordingly short term. Also, you can just remain neutral and trade both directions. Important thing is making decisions for your trades based off technical levels, and I typically will enter trades based off confirmation. So again, these are some of the key levels. If you don't know what all the lines mean on my charts, there's a legend that is available in the description as well as over in our Discord in the Getting Started channel. But as for right now, I'd like to see how this plays out, especially with the rate cut decision next week. Interesting thing about the data this morning that we received for PPI is month over month was actually hot by a little bit. I think the year over year was aligned with expectations, but the data was actually a little bit hot. So really quick, just because someone just pinged me asking about it, because earnings are in after hours today. Adobe. So Adobe got smacked off its earnings. I haven't looked at the earnings to know what the results were. Looks like they actually beat on earnings, which, shocker, stocks can beat on earnings and still drop. Y'all have seen this numerous times with tech stocks recently, so it shouldn't be a surprise at this point, but that's also why I never recommend people actually actively trade earnings directly. You can trade them indirectly, but at any rate, Adobe, I don't have the levels marked here on this chart. I'll come back to that one maybe in a separate video and use this as a example of how to draw lines. For the sake of time, I'm going to jump over and start going down the tech list of these stocks that people have asked about already. Apple. So I'm treading carefully on Apple here, okay? Because while it feels like we've been bullish across tech sector, Apple has been struggling. It hasn't carried the momentum that NVDA and some of the others have had. That being said, I've been watching the unusual Wells options flows for several stocks, including both of these, and seeing what's going on. Apple actually showing signs that it may remain and hold this bear flag here. If it can't push above this level, which you can see on the daily chart that we've got these green candles, but we've got these big wicks, which signals uncertainty. So if I go and jump down to the 1 hour chart, you can see things going a bit more detailed. And you can see we actually have been trading puts a little bit. We entered here, had about 20% gains at that support level, and then I know some people are riding runners at this point, but as of right now on Apple, for a bullish trade, I would want to see it get above that 223.49 resistance, which you can see it's rejected at multiple times here. That level historically is not kind to Apple, right? So you can see the rejections over here as well. If it can push above that level, then you might have a good call trade to scalp between 224 level to that 226.82 resistance is a good level to watch. There's that minor resistance though at 225. I think that's also serving as a psychological level, so that would be a good level to watch as well. My approach and methodology to any of my trades that I do with options is trim a portion of them to cover the entire cost basis as soon as the gains are shown if I'm in multiple contracts. So say I have 10 contracts, if I go up 20%, I'm going to sell off 9 of those contracts to cover the cost basis for the entire thing. Don't want to go too deep into that. This is meant to be just a review of the levels that we're currently on with the stock. So, fan favorite. So if we jump over to Tesla real quick, as many of you know, this is my favorite zone on Tesla to sell covered calls, and I'm doing it yet again. So I sold some more covered calls on my shares for long-term holdings after actually selling covered calls last, I guess it was Thursday. And then I bought the closed majority of them right here when we tagged that. What was the level that we came off of? Yeah, right in here. Whenever we push back above 212.39, that's my key level that I like as a support, and then it becomes resistance. And I saw Deej from the Discord just asked me to pull up SMCI too. I'll check that out here in just a second, man. So yeah, Tesla, same thing. Overall, what I'm expecting on Tesla, until we see something different, is going to be that on the monthly chart, this candle ends up rejecting back under that larger downtrend line that we've been rolling along with for a long time, since all-time highs back in 2021. So as of right now, watching that, going into the end of the week, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. There's several plays I'm watching there. If we can get a break above that level, then I might consider scalping some calls. I don't like to trade calls in this range on Tesla, because while it can push up like we've seen multiple times here, typically the premiums are so spiked on IV that you may get like 50 or 60% gains by trading those calls, but you're risking like $500+ per contract to do it. So I personally would rather trade puts off the resistance levels here where it makes sense, as well as that serves as an additional hedge in addition to my covered calls towards my long-term holdings on shares. So nothing wrong with trading calls on Tesla if you want to do that too. Just for me, the risk to reward whenever the contracts start looking like they do right now doesn't make sense. So I'll trade calls typically once we have confirmation of an uptrend going on. Right now, we don't really have that. We're still technically in a downtrend and haven't broken a new higher high yet. So you can see here on the daily, right? We're still struggling within this range, and technically we broke down from this red line here. Was a bear flag bearish pennant that we broke down from, retraced here, and rejected at that again. So we're just riding along that line at the moment. This is a short-term uptrend we have going on right here. So if we do end up breaking down from this newfound uptrend, so I don't want to move that line just for the sake of it, but if we break over in this range, I'll draw a new one and I'll post it in the Discord. That would be a level that you can expect this breakdown to continue, and we'll probably see that 167 range if that happens. Instead of going through the normal order, I'm going to jump over to SMCI for D's real quick. So this is a stock that everyone keeps on buying month after month because it drops a bunch and then they're like, it's got to bounce, and then it bear flags and it breaks down some more, right? I actually like semiconductors and tech, and I work in the industry, so I'm passionate about the topic. But that being said, I don't fight what the charts say, and I will trade both sides. I'm not long on SMCI here because it just doesn't make sense for me. As you can see here, bear flag, made the bearish pennant here, broke that, crashed down hard, right? You can see yet again, here we are, forming another bear flag. And it's actually a little bit cleaner on the 4 hour to see. But here we are, forming yet another bear flag. And consolidation here. And more than likely, unless something changes with SMCI, it's going to consolidate a little bit more. And then if it breaks this line, or better yet, if it breaks that low here, we're heading to that 352 support. That sounds like a long ways off, but in reality, there's no other real support within the range for SMCI. You can see that it gapped up significantly over here. Reply to these real quick. Going over. Okay. Then let's see. Some CI, so we talked through that. Smaller time frame, since I know Deej is probably over here trying to trade like 1 day to expiration, puts or calls on it tomorrow. This is the levels that I would personally be watching on it. I know that several guys in the Discord have been trading puts off of it when we have the rejections. So if I was doing it, I would wait and look for a confirmation of break below that 436 level. That's pretty solid level that we like to. I would say don't get greedy. So contract premiums are high on SMCI, and theta is insane, and it will eat the contracts alive if it trades flat intraday. Let me chat real quick. Alright, let's see. Yeah, and I know sometimes the video stream looks grainy. Make sure you actually click on the YouTube video down at the bottom and click on the settings and turn it to 1080p. Sometimes it's grainy unless you do that because it's higher resolution monitor and screen and the sharing. Try to keep it higher resolution so that you can see all the levels. That being said, if it's grainy when you try to look at it, that's why. So if you change it to 1080, you can probably see better. If the audio is terrible, sorry. We can change something up next time. Cool. D says it's good, so keep rolling. Amazon. So Amazon actually has got a setup that's bullish that I've been watching on it for a while. I know we traded puts off of one range, but I've been looking for a breakout of this downtrend, right? And while some people might think it's okay and you can go ahead and enter a breakout, like as soon as you start to peek over it, I personally prefer to wait for confirmation. So you could have traded this right here and said, oh, it broke out right there and chased calls, but it would have hurt the next day, obviously, right? And not always do you get this continued breakout after the retest. Sometimes it rejects and goes back under, which I can show you on Google and some others here in a minute. But typically with this, what I look for is a breakout of the downtrend. And from there, I look for a breakout above a key resistance level that it's faced in the past. Personally, for me here, I was looking at the 182 level because I wanted a bit more than that 176 level. So, sure, you could have had some quicker, bigger gains on the calls by entering them right here and hoping it played out okay. Personally, after trading for the last 4 years or so, I don't like that approach because 9 times out of 10, it doesn't always confirm, and it burns and it hurts whenever it does happen that way. So, I normally look for more confirmation, especially on the larger time frame like the daily and weekly chart, before I enter long or short positions. It's just how I like to trade. The exception would be if I'm trading with the trend. So for instance, on Google, I'll show you here in a minute, we entered puts before we actually had confirmation of the break from the downtrend into the bear flag. I guess just for the sake of it, I'll jump right over to it as I'm talking through it to keep things straight. But I know a lot of people were expecting, to move up right here, right? So for me, when we had this bear flag get formed right here, actually bearish pennant, I started entering puts right in here because we were in a downtrend. And while we had broke out from this downtrend right here in this area, if I was to draw the line, so you can see, and that's not perfect. I'm trying to not have to zoom out. If I draw the downtrend line, sure, we broke out, right? But same thing as what I just talked about on Amazon. If I see the breakout I want to see confirmation of the breakout followed by confirmation of a larger daily or weekly candle above a key resistance level on that stock. Thus why I did not trade calls on Google at that point. Okay. You can see here though, I know some people did, and if you got in for a quick scalp and you sold at the 167 level, which was the key level I was watching, that's great. That's awesome. People trade different time horizons. For me, I was in puts until we saw a directional change and confirmation of trend reversal. If we had confirmed above the 167 level here on the daily chart, I probably would have scalped calls to this target level, which you can see the green arrow at the 174.18 resistance, which is also a supply zone. But we didn't. We rejected the 167 level. We added 2 additional puts right here, and then we banked. I think those puts went huge. I guess I can look over here and tell you exactly what they did. But ultimately, that is why I look for confirmations, and hopefully talking through this in the video will help some of you understand a bit more of why I trade certain things the way I do. I know that sometimes it'll seem like I'm being bearish, but more so I like to be a bit safer and look for more confirmation rather than try to jump in early and put people in a situation like some of the other places do where they keep telling you to average down, average down, average down. It makes sense sometimes to average down on a position if you're in it and it actually is the plan. But averaging down on a situation like this on Google to try to save a call position that likely is going to get burned, that's not a setup to do that on. Okay, so like I said, we made pretty big gains. I think 77% gains on the smaller ones that we traded, and it looks like on the larger ones they actually went 392% gain. So that's why we trade setups the way we trade them, and we don't go in with the bullish bias, right? I actually like Google. I'm looking around my office right now and I see 4 different Google devices, so I'm not just bearish on Google, but the chart setup and all the antitrust lawsuits are the reason why I trade that the way I did. So what I'd like to see here on Google, it hasn't completed this measured move yet to the bear flag breakdown. I'm kind of watching it carefully here. There's actually a gap right here that may fill, so keep an eye on it. It's not a position right now where I would long it. It's very risky if you long it here. There's a gap that never got filled at 143.59 that we likely will see filled at some point. Exception being if we can push back above that 167 level, that'd be a good range to start going long on it. For the sake of time, I'm going to speed up and go through a couple of the more significant setups. Microsoft has had a head and shoulders I've been watching for a while, and this is why. So all the big pump we've had so far, and look, we're still maintaining in this right shoulder. So technically this is a valid head and shoulder setup until we have a higher high above that 466.55 level, technically above the high that we have there. So this right shoulder could go all the way up in this range and still be a valid head and shoulder setup with a price target of a breakdown that is in that range right there, which seems crazy, but that's just how charts and technicals work. Similar to what I said about the confirmations of breakouts to the upside on this setup, you can see that there's solid bullish momentum going right here. That's technically a 3-watch soldier setup on the daily chart, so that's actually a really bullish setup. But again, looking for confirmation, I want to see it above this level right here, this key resistance level, which is why you see I've got this price target range set up right here to where once we have breakout on the daily and weekly chart, yeah, I would scalp or I would day trade, especially calls there, and I would probably consider swinging some calls. But I would look for the confirmation first to ensure that we can get above that zone. Again, if you go long, hedge accordingly because current market and everything is. Microsoft's pretty straightforward there. AMD, I know several people are trading that right now. So, AMD, another that feels super bullish, right? Because we've seen all these huge green candles this week. But then in reality, if you look across, that's actually really flat and range bound. Also, AMD is still very much in a downtrend. So, you don't see me swinging AMD calls here because overall we are in a downtrend. Once we have confirmation of an upside break, there's plenty of room to trade to the upside and take those bullish trades like that. Just because the markets, quote, are doing one thing and QQQ or SPY are pumping, or you feel like everything is pumping big, look at tickers independently. You will be much more successful in your trading by doing so. Really, AMD, it looks like it's struggling a bit at this resistance level here. I'd like to see it break out and push above this on the daily and weekly charts, and we'll see from there. We entered some lotto puts on it that they went like 5% gains. I left one because it was just a pure lotto. I'll reevaluate on lotto trades like that. I'll usually take a really, really small position and then just ride it out in case it plays out. But in the meantime, just watching the setups and not trading any larger positions on that until we have some confirmations. Some other tickers that you guys want to see. Anybody in the lounge want me to pull up anything? If not, I'll pull up IWM. I know we're swinging some options on here too. So, IWM, right? Same thing as everything else this week. Feels super bullish, but look where we are across the board. So just, I'm not saying this is a bear. I'm saying be careful. The rate cuts and everything around that is what's driving a lot of the hope and momentum, especially sector rotation in the small caps with IWM. What a lot of people don't account for with IWM is that one of the biggest contributors is SMCI, which y'all have seen tanking heavily the last few months. So keep in mind that just because small caps get sector rotation doesn't mean that by itself IWM is going to soar. I am watching the setup because I like the higher low here, and I personally really like IWM for trading because the calls and the premiums on those are great. What I'm looking for here is some confirmation of a breakout to the upside that actually is above the range that we're currently in, because this is the range for the existing bear flag that we've been in, right? So bear flag, consolidation. If we reject here and reject lower, we could potentially have a bear flag breakdown that moves lower. So I'm being careful about that setup right now. I do like that it looks like we got a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders going on here, which the measured move for that was like 1%, so it looks like we actually completed that move already. That's the thing, right? So patterns are patterns until they're invalidated. So just because the pattern's there doesn't mean it's going to be validated or not. It's once you get the confirmation of that break or move to the upside, that typically you should be trading, rather than entering the trade based on the hope that something is going to move the way you want. Exception being if you're trying to trade a swing and you're going with the overall momentum of that given ticker. Couple of others. Palantir. This is one of my favorite longs. Oh no, I didn't take it. There we go. So this is one of my favorite longs. See, we actually had some calls, and I'm in shares as well, but the price target for this breakout for the measured move was right there, this green arrow. I was using a different style indicator at the time, but that 35.18 resistance level, which is actually the historical resistance, that was my target to the upside, so I trimmed some there. We also traded to the downside right here when we broke this level to this support. That's what that red was. But when we held that support, that was great. And then we saw that nice, beautiful gap up that came with the S&P 500 listing on it. So be careful. Don't take the S&P 500 listing as definitive sign that the stock goes up. If you want to know why, before I talk more about Palantir, I'm going to jump over to SMCI and show you why. So real quick, when was SMCI added to the S&P 500? I believe it was the 18th. I'm going to confirm real quick. All right, March 18th. Okay. March 18th is right here. Okay. So being added to the S&P 500 does not guarantee that your stock is going to soar. Case in point. So I won't talk much more about that, but just saying don't use certain events like that as your indication for why you're trading it. Again, I'm bullish on Palantir. I hope it doesn't actually fall like SMCI did. That being said, I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm trading based off the technicals. So if I actually zoom out to the weekly, this thing has such a beautiful bullish pattern going on because we've got a cup and handle here. Also, we've got a bullish megaphone pattern going on that we broke out from right here. What I ideally would like to see is a hold up here above this, as well as push up and beyond, right? So I'm staying long, at least on some of my swing calls for 2025. Also staying long on shares. I actually haven't sold covered calls against this one yet, just because it hasn't made sense for me to do so. I will sell covered calls on stocks like NVDA and Tesla all the time to hedge my long positions, but right now, just Palantir, there's so much bullish momentum going on, and you can see that it doesn't have as rapid of the moves with the larger premiums like you see on Tesla and NVIDIA to actually make sense to sell it. So again, just riding this one out at the time. If a bearish setup presents itself like this little one we had right here, I'll scalp put short term to hedge that long term position a bit more. But as of right now, still very bullish on Palantir. I want to see more upside here and see if maybe we can break towards all-time highs in the coming weeks and months. Multiple reasons I like this stock. For one, the tech sector and the ties with Apple and some of the others are great, but also it serves as an indirect wartime stock because of what they do with cybersecurity and intelligence, which is kind of the realm that I work in and have interest in. So I get it and I like it. Again, bullish setup. If we can get the breakout there, it's going to be great. It can maybe push towards 45 later this year if we can continue that breakout and not have some kind of market-wide event that impacts it. But definitely want to keep an eye on. They've got earnings coming up again in November, so keep an eye on it through there. Let's see the other tickers. SoFi. So SoFi actually has this setup going on that we started phasing into long-term calls on it again. I want to see it break out and hold above this downtrend line here. Sorry for all the price targets. That's actually for one of our current call option setups that were alerted. If I fix this, bother me. Right, so then the target for that would be around the $10 mark, right? If we break out, this stock gonna rip like a meme stock, and I've actually got it stored over in my meme stock category. But also, if we get rate cuts, that could be beneficial for SoFi in the coming months. People are still borrowing money because people are broke, so therefore these stocks and lender stocks overall are doing well. I think that if we can get the confirmed breakout here, this one actually could rip again. Even though I'm looking at that as the longer term target, you can still make huge gains on SoFi with some of the 2, 3, 4 week out call options. It's cheap too. It's a great stock to trade on smaller accounts. We're trading smaller premiums, so even just a move between this $7.46 range up to the $8 range, you can make huge gains on calls. I'd have to go back and look and see, but there were some calls earlier this year. Look real quick because I'm curious now. He made 300% gains within 2 days on some SoFi calls with a small term breakout. So again, you don't have to spend tons of money with options trading. Honestly, I would recommend trading some of the cheaper priced options, especially swing alerts, and getting used to those types of trades first before trying to trade really expensive options on like Mag 7 stocks, because those options are more expensive. But an example with those SoFi calls that we traded earlier this year, actually it was in July, they were like $4 a piece, right? And they went 300%. So yeah, that's only $16, but 300% is 300%. So if you're on a smaller account and you're trading something like that, it actually works really well to get used to it. One or two more tickers, and then I'm going to wrap this up because it's time to go spend time with the family for the evening. But RTX is another one that we are actually in calls longer term for swing on. It looks like it's pushing with more bullish momentum, so I like that. I'll mark the levels on that using as an example as well. Real quick, just because I know that people want to know crypto stuff, and crypto is something I love more than stocks, oddly enough. I've been in crypto since 2017 for those of you that don't know. But let's see, we've got, I'm going to jump to the weekly and show you because the setup's still bullish regardless of what people feel right now. This is a cup and handle, okay? And the price target for this cup and handle is huge. That being said, we still have this awesome bull flag going on here. I really want to see it hold this 54K range. I'm back over to the daily really quick. But I really want to see it hold the 54K range. If it breaks down below 50 again, that's fine. I trade leverage crypto futures short and long and make gains short term, and then I add to my long term holdings on various types of crypto tokens on my cold storage wallet. So example of that wasn't just buying BTC by itself, but more so was trading leverage futures. This weekend I posted over on Discord, I entered 200x leveraged Bitcoin calls right in this range right here on this breakout setup. I did lock the gains on that setup right here, and it was awesome gains. It would have been really cool if I would have stayed in those up here, because it probably would be, I think, like 12,000% gains. I know it sounds ridiculous, but for those of you that aren't used to trading leverage futures with crypto, there's so much risk with it that you learn to not get greedy, because it's not like stock options and stock futures are. Basically, the way it works with crypto is if you have it go against you and it hits your liquidation price, you lose all your money, and it just liquidates your position. There's no waiting for expiration or anything like that. So I learned some really tough lessons on that in 2022. I don't do stupid games with liquidation and trading leverage futures anymore. So get in, get out, trade the levels. If someone wants to trade crypto futures, there's a link to Bank over in the Discord you can use to join with a referral. Crypto futures are a gray area, I will tell you that. So you can't really, they don't fall within the category of like securities and stuff like you have for stock options and stock futures. It's a gray area. It's not treated as a crypto. It's not treated as a security. So trade accordingly. Technically, most of the brokers that are US based don't allow futures trading. So Bank is one of the few remaining crypto brokers / apps that actually doesn't completely and totally block out US based IP addresses now. As I'm talking, I'm actually noticing too that this is getting nice above this supply zone and trying to hold out and push up. So this is actually a really nice setup. But yeah, you can trade on Bank leverage futures for crypto. Real quick, I won't do a deep dive on a bunch of cryptos. If y'all want and you want to comment and tell me you want me to do that, I can do that in a separate video. If y'all want like a crypto specific talk, I can do that as well, because like I said, I love crypto, and I'm actually got a very large position in various crypto that some of you are aware of. But ultimately, I can do a deeper dive on a lot of the other, not just meme coins and things like that, but there's some other really good projects that have a lot of bullish momentum going on. But if I jump over to the weekly for Ethereum, you're going to see it looks very similar to Bitcoin, as it should. They're also different assets, so they do have a little bit different functionality going on. One's more transactional based, and then one is more based on overall value, right? So if you're looking at Bitcoin, think of it more like gold, and think of it as availability of supply and demand, and it drives up its value based off that. Whereas Ethereum, even though it's gone proof of stake now, is a bit more transactional based. That's the case with quite a few cryptos. I will also say that crypto, I've been personally loading and alerting several options for 2025 for the crypto stocks, which I'll cover in a separate video just for the sake of time. But if Trump does end up getting elected, there was even news today of him pushing a new crypto project. He's very bullish on crypto, and he believes big in crypto. So if Trump gets elected, expect crypto to soar. If Harris gets elected, I don't know. Probably similar to the current situation that we've had with crypto the last 3 or 4 years. I remain unbiased as far as the election goes, and like I'll vote and everything. That's great. My decision and what I feel about it isn't going to have impact ultimately in the end decision. So no point stressing about it at the time. I will trade the charts accordingly. I'm not going to go super heavy with hopes that Trump wins and that that's going to save my crypto. Instead, I'm trading the crypto charts based off what they are. If Trump does end up getting elected, like I said, that's going to be bullish for it. If not, that's fine too. We may very much still see bullish momentum to the upside based off of the Bitcoin halving cycles. So this video actually ended up being quite a bit longer than I expected it to be, but wanted to touch on a few things. If y'all like this and y'all want to see more videos like this, please do let me know. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hope everyone has a great evening. See you tomorrow.